morning, people of the world. It's your boy Living Proof. Happy Wednesday out there. I just want to come on here to give a quick message of the day and give a quick Bible verse of the day. And that Bible verse of the day comes out of Proverbs 14, verse 12. And it states that there's a way that seems right to man, but the end is the way of death. When I'm thinking about that verse, I end up thinking about the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. Some of y'all may know the story that God created everything. He created all the trees, the fruits and everything. But God gave Adam one command, is to not eat from this tree of knowledge of good and evil. But then, Satan ended up, deceiving, Eve, making the fruit, look pleasing to her eyes, end up deceiving her to eat it. But before she ate the fruit, Satan told her, that what God commanded her. So she told Satan that God said, you can eat every fruit, tree in this garden except for this tree right here, because if you eat from it, that day you would die, And then Satan said, surely you would not die. For the moment you eat that fruit, your eyes will become open. You will be like God. But the death that, that it's talking about is the spiritual death, because, once Adam and Eve ate the fruit, they was banned from paradise. They was banned from God's presence, because it was, in God's presence, seeing, things spiritually, seeing the angels and everybody worshiping, because they were spiritually connected with God. But once that sin occurred, they became, distant and, and also, kicked out of paradise. So that's, so that statement that, the way that ends in death, is speaking about a spiritual death, because, whatever temptation we are tempted with, it may look good to our eyes, but if it's, it's wrong, then we become spiritual death, Spiritual death means we get attacked a lot, we go through, mental health situation because of spiritual death. And also I'm thinking about, when Jesus was crucified, because he died for our sins. So he had to put on our sin when he was on that cross. And then he said, Father, why have you forsaken me? Because God had to forsake him, because, sin separates us from the Father. So Jesus stated, why you have forsaken me? Because he carried our sin. He had to bore our sin. In that moment, God, he was closed off from God, and for that moment. So, so I'm thinking about that verse, and, there's a lot that we can be, very cautious of, because, just how Satan tempted, Adam and Eve, Eve in the garden, he also comes with the same temptations, to tempt us and to, become a spiritual death. And that's not a good thing. But, luckily, Jesus did die for us, and, we don't have to stay spiritual death. You don't have to stay in spiritual bondage. We was promised to live in freedom, that if we choose to. But, if we, saying that we are living in freedom, but we are, still in sin, we only deceiving ourselves, and eventually, death is going to, lead to more death, in the long run, So that's a quick message for the day. It's your boy Living Proof, and we out.